Hello and welcome to another episode of With Enough Prep Time. I'm your host, the Nerd Man, and today we're talking about Geoff Johns' ex-wife has come out and refutes some of the claims of of Ray Fisher regarding Geoff Johns being racist, or the racist allegations against Geoff Johns. Now, I have to admit something before I even start this video. I have to admit that, as soon as I put this video up, I essentially I made the title, I scheduled the video, and I immediately kind of regretted it because I am so tired of getting into the muck and crap of what essentially is something that is really none of my business. What happens between two famous, rich Hollywood stars is not something that particularly interests me so much. I am a fan of Geoff Johns, that is true, but I have tried to remain as objective as I possibly can about this situation and not just, take Geoff Johns' side, see what the information is, see what, Ray Fisher had to say, and receive what Ray Fisher had to say with an open mind. And also just to, I just want to celebrate DC Comics. I don't want to be discussing, ad nauseum on this channel, whether Geoff Johns is racist or he isn't racist, or he is, or Ray Fisher never really accused him of racism. He was accusing him of, something else. Whether calling someone, whether saying Superman's grandfather should be white is I just don't have the energy or care enough to continually go back and forth and back and forth. And I released an article, on a comic book movie, where I discussed, this again. And the only reason I discussed, what the ex-wife has come out and said was simply because I felt that it was interesting that a black woman who was the ex-wife of Geoff Johns, and, people don't ordinarily have the greatest relationships with their ex-wives, but for the ex-wife who is black to come out and say, absolutely not. I don't believe for a second that Geoff Johns, was racist. I thought, hey, maybe that should get some traction. Maybe that should get covered. I'm not saying that this, in any way, I don't think this in any way, it doesn't prove Geoff Johns' innocence. It doesn't vindicate him or something like that. I mean, some people might say it's like that typical excuse of, oh, I've got a black friend, so I'm not racist. And that isn't the case. Somebody may act in the home with black woman's family in one way, when they're the husband, and then act very differently when they go into the workplace. So I don't think this excuses Geoff Johns, but I just think it's another element to painting a picture of this guy that doesn't seem to coincide with what Mr. Ray Fisher is saying. It just doesn't seem to have the same, it doesn't seem to gel well. And then when you take into consideration Ray Fisher's own actions, which have been highly suspicious, it doesn't paint a very good picture of Ray Fisher. or Ray Fisher's allegations. It makes them that much more unbelievable. And what I was saying is that in this age of cancel culture, when a woman comes forward like this, I would think that, since this, I don't think Ray Fisher, this has got as much traction as Ray Fisher hopes would, but it's had enough traction at least that it's had an impact on Geoff Johns' career. And I would think that the media, being a responsible media, would actually, seek some information from this ex-wife, or say, hey, do more articles saying Geoff, because every time Ray Fisher says something about this racism issue, it gets 10, 20, 30 like different publications, articles coming out. Even the smallest little thing he says gets traction, it gets articles. But Geoff Johns' ex-wife, who is a black woman, coming out and saying that that she doesn't think he's racist, doesn't get any traction at all. So I'm going to read a little bit of what Geoff Johns' wife had to say, and then we'll kind of discuss it. So I'm going to read from the article I wrote. Why not? Having read recent headlines, you would think Geoff Johns is an unrepentant racist who does not have any defenders at all, especially those who are people of color. I should mention that, Geoff Johns' ex-wife isn't the only person of color who's come forward to defend Geoff Johns, but also there have been colleagues of his that have spoken about him prior to all of this coming out. Asian, talent from who he's worked with in DC Comics have come out. Walter Hamada obviously is Asian himself, has come out. So these are people of color who don't seem to have a problem with Geoff Johns and never have seen him as having any kind of racial animus. Now, let's be clear on what we mean by that. Because let's be very, very clear. When we say somebody isn't racist, that doesn't mean that they might not have wrong ideas about race. Okay, that just means that they don't, they don't think black people are lesser than them, or Asian people or any other color is lesser than them. They don't, prescribe to the idea that, blanket negative generalizations about another race. That's the kind of thing that we're talking about. Thinking that Superman's grandfather has to be white, right, is an opinion. In my opinion, it's a wrong opinion on the part of Geoff Johns, if in fact Geoff Johns ever even did say this, because we still don't know if he said any of these things. But it's a wrong opinion. It's not a racist opinion, right? So just to make clear that this is what I'm saying here, that I'm not saying that Geoff Johns has never said anything that is racially problematic. I don't know, because there's no proof been given of that. But nonetheless, what we're talking about is that he's been painted as a racist, and when people are coming out actually defending him, media doesn't seem to want to cover this. And I'm going to talk about this at the end in terms of cancel culture and the problem with cancel culture. So, well, it turns out quite the opposite is true. In an article published in USA Today, reporters reached out to John's ex-wife, Anissa Dorsey, who stood by a former spouse, claiming she will always believe he is innocent. This is his ex-wife, will always believe he is innocent of these racist stories and fictitious allegations against him. She also went on to say that I am a proud, beautiful, strong, and intelligent black woman from Louisiana, And I ran to California to escape racism. She said Geoff enjoyed and has been part of a black family since 2000, and someone's bad feelings cannot erase that time nor the truth. So again, here we go with the whole Geoff Johns situation. That a woman who comes from Louisiana, who a state that has a deep history of racism and all of this kind of thing. I think she can identify, somebody who has who harbors, harmful beliefs. And she comes out and says, in no uncertain terms, no, I don't think Geoff Johns is particularly kind of racist, and she'll never believe it. This is a person who has known him deeply, not somebody who has known him tangentially, like Ray Fisher, who has heard from third parties, fourth parties, things that Geoff Johns is supposed to have said. And those people who claim that Geoff Johns said this don't even have the, according to Ray Fisher, but these people aren't even brave enough or willing to actually come out and defend, Ray Fisher and say, hey, yeah, I can confirm, I can collaborate that he said all these problematic things. And, I've talked to people online, the supporters of Ray Fisher, and they're very passionate. And now they're kind of moving goalposts. One, they're saying, oh, Ray Fisher never said that Geoff Johns was racist. Well, didn't he? Or didn't he at least allude to the fact that he was racist? Ray Fisher, is the one who said, when it comes to matters involving race, I always give people the benefit of the doubt to those who may be ignorant of their biases. But when you have a studio executives, particularly Geoff Johns, saying we can't have an angry black man at the center of the movie, and then those executives use their power to reduce and remove all black people from that movie, they are no longer entitled to the benefit associated with doubt. Okay, he goes on to say Warner Brothers head Toby Emmerich, Geoff Johns, and Warner Brothers co-president of production John Berg were not ignorant of their biases. Fisher continued. They understood full well that the racist rhetoric they chose to entertain in those meetings was offensive, discriminatory, and unacceptable. He also accused, this is me now, he also accused Geoff Johns and Toby Emmerich and John Berg of passing racist notes to down to him as well through back channels at some point. So there was a lot of things that would allude to, yeah, I'm calling these people racist. And yet now, the Ray Fisher's fans are like backing off that and saying, no, he didn't actually call Geoff Johns racist. But the problem is on Geoff Johns' Twitter, on John Berg's Twitter, on, Walter Hamada and all of these people's Twitters, they have been accused of racism. That's what they've been literally accused of by a rabid mob. So whether, Ray Fisher meant to actually accuse them of being racist or just was accusing them of racist behavior, all amounts to the same thing, which is a huge he's impinged upon their actual ability to function within their profession properly, because their profession is very public facing. They have a public image, and that public image has ultimately been really hurt and damaged by what Ray Fisher has come out and said. So again, I don't buy this by fans who are now kind of trying to justify what Ray Fisher did by saying, oh, Ray Fisher didn't actually come out and say Geoff Johns or John Berg were racist. And you have to remember that in the case of John Berg actually went out and apologized to Ray Fisher very, very early on. And Ray Fisher continued a couple more tweets doing serious damage to John Berg's image. I forgot about this because he had a tweet very early on saying that John Berg he had alluded to one of the people that he had accused had since apologized to him. And John Berg did give a very heartfelt apology to Ray Fisher that you can see in the Hollywood Reporter article about Ray Fisher, or I think it was the Vanity Fair article about Ray Fisher. John Berg came out, gave a very heartfelt apology. And this was very, very early on. If you go through Ray Fisher's Twitter, if you want to spend a day having a fucking headache, migraine, you can find that Ray Fisher said very, very early on that John Berg, that somebody had reached out to him and apologized to him, and we found out much, much later, way after he'd continued sending these tweets saying John Berg was was passing discriminatory notes and offensive notes and all of these kind of things, and saying that he should play Cyborg like Quasimodo was problematic, and all of these crazy things that Ray Fisher was doing. And he said all this stuff, and it turns out that months and months and months later, after doing serious damage to John Berg, that Ray Fisher had already accepted this heartfelt apology that John Berg had reached out to him and said. That shows very, very poor character, in my opinion. He said here, I'm always willing to forgive. I'm always willing to, well, it doesn't seem like you were willing to forgive John Berg. But back to the situation of Geoff Johns, right? Now, I wrote an article on comicbook.com. I'm not going to read the whole thing at all. But I will say this, that the whole point of this article that I wrote was to really talk about cancel culture and the dangers of what happens with cancel culture. Because it seems to me, in the case of Andy Signor, in the case of Geoff Johns, that the media is very, very willing to, it's very, very willing to put out a lot of bad, terrible things about people. And please remember, do me a favor, give me a high five, smash that like button if you're enjoying the conversation. That they're willing to put, so that the media is willing to put a lot of bad things about people that they want to cancel. They're willing to put a lot of bad things out about them, but they're not willing, when they're proven or shown to have, not have the evidence to actually back up many of the claims that they're making. It's shown that the media is unwilling to backtrack and actually present exculpatory evidence that suggests the innocence of the person. They're only willing to put evidence that suggests the guilt of the person out. And I think this is very, very irresponsible. And I wanted to just, put it out there about, Geoff Johns' ex-wife. How many ex-wives of people will actually come out and actually defend their ex-husband? It's almost unheard of, and for this woman to come out and defend her ex-husband like this, it does say something. Yes, there is the thing of, oh, I have a black friend, so therefore I'm not racist. But when that black friend comes out and actually defends you, surely that means something. I wouldn't come out and defend certain of my friends that that if somebody accused them of racism, because certain of them, I do think certain attitudes they have are problematic. I kind of can have conversations with them and whatever, but I'll just be, if somebody said, certain things about them, I'll be like, oh, okay, I don't know, But there are certain of my friends that I absolutely would defend. And I would be like, absolutely fucking not. No fucking way did they do this, because I know them. and I know that they're not capable. It's not in their DNA. Those are the only friends I would defend. So I imagine this black woman is the same. For her to say a friend of hers, an ex, husband is not capable, does not think like this, does not have this in his DNA. I think it means a lot. So, again, I'm so tired of this. I really am not going to talk about this anymore, because I've gone back and forth on Twitter. People that I was, that I had a nice relationships with, I thought have now been insulting me for, putting out a video where I basically showed, this Ray Fisher claim that all black people were removed from the Justice League movie was absolutely false. I literally put out a video saying that, showing that, highlighting it, and that not only are not all the black people removed from Josh Whedon's cut, that there were actually black and Asian people who were actually, put in the movie, but they just don't want to listen. It's got to a point where I'm only speaking, the people I'm speaking to who hear me and understand what I'm talking about. It's like speaking to the speaking to the converted, right? It's like trying to convert the choir. I can't remember the quote I'm trying to think of now, but preaching to the choir, right? There's no point. Those who understand and think, I think rationally, are already convinced that this is kind of nonsense, and what Ray Fisher has been saying doesn't seem to add up. And others who disagree with that, good on them. If that's what they want to believe in life, I hope it makes that they get something out of it. But I don't see any gain from destroying and continuing to harm the career of one of the greatest comic book writers of all time, whose work is basically the thing that pretty much most of the DCEU films are based on. I just don't see I don't see how that is kind of helpful to, as DC fans, how that is helpful to our cause of having the DCEU be successful. I'm so tired of the split audiences in the DCEU. I just wish we could come together and celebrate things. We had a huge win with the Snyder Cut and its release. I thought we should be happy. It reminds me of that Harvey Keitel line at the From Dusk Till Dawn. It was always one of my favorite scenes in the movie, where he says, he asks George Clooney, are you such a fucking loser that you don't even know when you've won? And I ask that to DCEU fans who are fighting over this and that, whose fault it was that the Justice League didn't come out, and who was it Geoff Johns, was it John Berg, was it Walter Amado? We're all arguing, saying it's Kevin Sugihara, no, it's Geoff Johns, no, it's Kevin Sugihara, no, it's Walter Amado, no, it's like, are we such fucking losers that we can't even recognize when we've won? We got the Snyder Cut. We've got all of these amazing films to come. We've got the Batman. And to be fair, I say that to Ann Sarnoff as well, and the Warner Brothers execs. Are you such fucking losers that you can't see when you've won? Because the Snyder Cut, no matter what you want to say about it, it was quite popular and it was quite well received. So I would think that whatever you're doing with the rest of your universe, please bring new, fresh talent fresh eyes to look at these properties. But why get rid of Zack Snyder as well and get rid of his whole fan? Oh, I say that, but why get rid of all of his nice fan base as well as the ones that are toxic? That's just losing yourself money. So that's my final thoughts on all of this. I swear to you, I am not doing a single other video. I am so fed up of this bullshit that I can't handle it anymore. It makes me upset. So I'm not going to cover it anymore. That's it. I'm done. I even giving myself, driving up the will to actually even do this video was too much for me. From now on, I want to celebrate DC and what's fun about it and what makes me happy and what I love about DC movies. So that's me. Please like, subscribe for more content, and comment. I love the comments. Tell me what you think about this whole situation. And yeah, that's me. I'll see you on the flip side. I love you 3000. Yeah, peace.